And that gave me a little bit of hope. If this guy could see something in me that I couldn't see in myself, like, why couldn't I try? And so I think if all you have is like the tiniest inkling that it's possible, that's all you need. Because when you're completely hopeless, you're not going to fight. But if you know there's a little sliver of a chance that you can have an amazing life in recovery, then it makes it all worth it and worth fighting for. And you and I and so many other people are examples that, like, hey, that isn't how your story has to end.
Welcome back to the Sobriety Diaries, friends. I'm your host, Nate Kelly, founder of Pod Studio and recovering alcoholic, 8.5 years from my last drink. So grateful for that. Check today's show notes for more information on Pod Studio and how I can help you bring your message and your podcast to life. I would love to collaborate on your dream show. Make sure to check out all of our video interviews at youtube.com/Nate Kelly. Today is sort of an interesting hybrid episode. I wanted to talk about summer social events and tips and tricks for taking your sobriety into the real world and on the road for summer vacation. We recently talked to Tiffany Jenkins and we had some extra footage, and we talked about her hosting the Cheer Choice Awards and going to Las Vegas, the party capital of the world, and some things that she did to ensure her sanity, to ensure, that she was able to have a good time and not focus on copious amounts of alcohol that she was surrounded by. So it sort of got me thinking, it's summer. We're going to barbecues. We are lounging by the pool. We are going on vacation. We're at the beach, all of which, up until about 8 years ago, I had a drink in my hand. For all of those, well, really for everything that I did, but particularly those social events. And I'm sure that I'm not alone here. So I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to do sort of a little hybrid episode and share some bonus content never before seen from my interview with Tiffany, and throw in some of my own tips and tricks, some of my own experience. So let's open the diary on a kick-ass sober summer. Let's do it. So the first thing we want to think about, and obviously high priority, is identifying if you have triggers and what the challenges are that perhaps you'll be facing at this particular event or on vacation. I think that there are probably a handful or so of common triggers that we see. There could be peer pressure, the abundance of alcohol surrounding us. If you have emotional triggers, emotional conversations, loneliness, I think, can be a big one if you have a lack of summer plans. So recognizing these and doing your best to sort of curtail interacting with these triggers is priority number one. So, of course, we want to participate in social events with our friends and family. Of course, we want to be involved in special moments, graduations, pool parties. We don't want to be excluded from these events, but there is also a boundary that I think is necessary, a personal boundary to set for ourselves. And I think that's okay. I've said before on this podcast that there is a certain level of selfishness that needs to come with your recovery, and setting boundaries is okay, particularly in early recovery. If you know these personal triggers and if you foresee they being present in any particular situation, it's okay to decline an invitation. Perhaps you respond with I'm sorry I can't make it, but I would love to grab lunch with you next week, instead of the summer bash block party. Maybe suggest something more intimate and personal so the two of you can catch up or a small group of you can catch up. I love responding with a sort of secondary suggestion or a backup plan because it still shows that you're interested in the person, that you're just setting a boundary for the event. And I think that's important. And I think that the host will understand and respect that boundary that you are setting, but offering still to spend one on one or more intimate time together. The next thing that I think is important is planning ahead. And, that can involve sort of knowing what the vibe of the party or sort of the guest list, not necessarily like names, addresses, phone numbers of every person that's going to be there, but a general consensus of how many or the crowd of people that you can expect. Another thing that I think is important to plan is an exit time and an exit plan. One thing that I noticed in early recovery that kept happening was, if I would notice that people were starting to get a bit rowdy or, if the party was kind of taking that turn into sloppiness, and I wanted to leave, if I waited to then, go grab my shoes and start getting ready to leave, there always seemed to be this like, don't leave yet. Oh, why are you going? Come on, just stay. And just this uncomfortable, weird, unnecessary interaction that perhaps the tipsy person doesn't realize that it's unnecessary and uncomfortable. So I always sort of announce my plan when I arrive, like, like here's your candle and welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I do have to go around 5, but I'm so happy that you invited me. Or walking in with your balloons and your cake and happy birthday, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here. I do have to leave in about 30 minutes, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And, just sort of putting it out there and setting the expectation so that there's not a surprise and you can perhaps avoid that awkward interaction when you go to slip on your Birkenstocks. The next thing I want to talk about, and something that you'll hear from Tiffany here shortly, is bringing a support system and not being the only lone ranger that's not drinking at a party, or, taking your sister who might have a couple but is willing to leave the party on a dime, if you start to feel uncomfortable, or, your husband who's going to abstain from drinking that night too. Somebody that is on your team, that's on your side, that understands, you're in early recovery and you're a little nervous about going to this party and that they are there to support you and not, you know, party with Aunt Karen. Having support and having people, that are on your side is so important in early recovery. And like I said, they don't necessarily need to be sober people or like your sponsor or, like the president of AA or anything, just someone that's on your side. Lastly, I wanted to talk about post party and making sure that you're back to whatever recovery routine or sober journey that you are on, promptly getting back to it either later the same day or first thing the next morning. So if you're going to meetings, plan on hitting one that night or, early the next morning. If you are a heavy meditator, if exercise as part of your recovery, getting right back into that routine post party and also treating yourself. If you love a caramel macchiato with extra drizzle on top, swing by Starbucks on the way home or, after you go to the gym the next morning, get you a drink, extra drizzle on top. These things are not easy. I rewarded myself with vodka and cocaine about a decade ago. And, now I'm okay with a chocolate chip cookie double toasted and a caramel macchiato from Starbucks. And there's nothing that I would want more. There's nothing I'd want more. And I think it's important to recognize wins and, surviving outings, particularly if they're large or if there is a heavy social aspect to it. Treat yourself. Treat yourself. So I think these are very practical and relatable ways to make sure that you don't feel uneasy or don't feel compromised in social situations and, therefore lessen that anxiety and lessen other possible triggers to have your best summer and to live your hot girl summer vibes. So we're going to take a quick break and come back with the rest of my conversation with Tiffany Jenkins on her experience hosting the Cheer Choice Awards in Vegas and some tips from her on what she did to stay sober. Hey there, future podcaster. I'm Nate Kelly, and today I'm thrilled to introduce you to something that is going to transform your podcasting journey. Are you ready to turn your passion for podcasting into a thriving reality? Let me introduce you to the Podcast Launch Accelerator. Imagine a 6-month mentorship program where you get personalized one-on-one coaching, an action plan tailored to your goals, and a comprehensive podcast growth blueprint. But wait, there's more. We're throwing in exclusive interviews with industry experts, a professional podcast success toolkit, and access to our monetization masterclass. At the end of 6 months, we guarantee you a spot in the top 10%, appearance on top iTunes or Spotify charts, and a monetized podcast with host read ads. Ready to launch your podcast? Click the link below to secure your spot in the Podcast Launch Accelerator. So I mentioned the Cheer Choice Awards. So fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. How did that all come about? And it was in Vegas, right?
Yes.
You're in Vegas, the party capital of the world, fresh up, like in a sort of emotional, vulnerable point in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How does your recovery come into play there?
Yes, good question. Cheer Choice Awards is an awards show celebrating positive creators. And I guess I was nominated by somebody, and somehow I made it through all these rounds without even knowing about it. And as soon as I learned about it, I sent them an email and I'm like, hey, is this real? It says I'm in the top 5. And Matt Rife is in the category, and it just seems fake to me. So
yeah.
And they're like, yes, it was real. You didn't advance though. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And they're like, but we'd like you to host it. And I was like, host what? They're like, the whole mother effing show.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. I was beside myself. I screamed. I haven't been that excited in a long time. Because it's just like a dream. It was like one of those dream come true moments.
Yeah.
Where something
and
happens.
They do it legit, man. This was, you're on stage. They had musical guests. There are envelopes, and you're opening and giving awards. And I mean, it's like a legit operation here.
Yeah, it was basically the Grammys.
Basically the Grammys.
Don't want to brag, but Yeah, I got to host it with a really cool girl. And so being in Vegas was tough for me. Um, Only because for personal reasons. So just seeing like slot machines and things like that is very triggering for me. I'm
Yeah.
not a gambler, but I've had people close to me who had issues with it. And
Hmm.
um, being in that party atmosphere usually makes me uncomfortable. I don't go to places where people are drinking and partying, like that old saying, because if you hang out in the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a
Get your
haircut.
haircut.
I say it every 5 seconds, but it's true. Like just being in that atmosphere was true. So I brought friends from recovery with me,
Yes.
and they flew with me. Not, and they stayed in the hotel with me. It's my best friend and Flip. Uh, they both came, and they were in recovery too. So we avoided, like, there was a nightclub party. We didn't go. There was a pool party. We went for like 30 minutes, and
Mm,
there was just drinking and partying, and it wasn't
yeah.
our scene anymore. And the loud music, I was like, ow, I can't even hear myself think. These kids are so crazy. Let's go
Yeah.
play bocce ball. Um, but yeah, it was, thankfully, I had tools in my toolbox. I knew places to avoid. I was with the right kind of people, and I was there to help, spread positivity and light through this awards ceremony. So to throw away 11 years worth of recovery just for a moment of, you know, impulsivity in Vegas would have been devastating.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful that I made it in and out alive.
She made it.
I did
And she
it.
looked good doing it.
Hey, and
Hey.
I'm never going back. So it's just not my thing. It's not. I'm
Yeah.
such a homebody. I'm such an
Same.
introvert. I don't like
Yeah. Like
noises.
loud. Yes. The loud noises. I just can't. I
Yeah,
just can't.
me either. And I know that makes us sound so old,
Yeah.
but I get overstimulated really easily.
Same.
Yeah.
There's also, this uh, kind of piggybacking off of that. I had a conversation the other day where I end up just talking about my recovery or sobriety first. And like sometimes making it the only thing about my personality. Like there are more levels to me, like
Mhm.
I'm funny, I'm awkward, I'm quirky. Like there are different aspects to my personality or me rather than just being sober. And sometimes I
Right.
have like a hard time saying that or displaying it and not just making everything about recovery. Does that make sense or am I rambling?
No, no,
Do you
you're not
get that?
rambling. I do
Like
get
not
that, of
making it
course.
all of our personality.
Yeah. Well, sometimes for me, for a while, it was tough because I wasn't sure what my identity was supposed to be because a lot of people followed me online for the recovery stuff.
Yeah.
And so I felt obligated to talk about it every time I was online since
Yeah.
that's why they were there. But then part of me was like, I'm not a spokesperson for recovery. This is only one part of who I am. And there's so much
Exactly.
more. And I think the more time that you're in recovery, the more you learn about yourself. I think truthfully, it just becomes a part of who you are. Like you still have to work on it daily, but the more time that you put between you and that last drink, like it isn't as much at the forefront. These other things come
Right.
forward. Like now I have a job, now I have a career, now I am a homeowner, because the blessings come. Once you start doing the right thing, the blessings come and kind of fill up this place so that it isn't your whole identity anymore.
So true. The
Mm.
promises, the
The
blessings.
promises. Yes.
I saw a quote on your website
Oh,
and it stood out to me and I wanted to read it and get your thoughts and see if we can leave the listeners with, you know, a bit of hope. A flicker of
okay.
hope in one's heart is capable of lighting the path to a new destiny. And I think that hope, that flicker of hope is so important. So if we have listeners who are still struggling,
Mm.
what can we offer them today to bootstrap it and maybe find that flicker?
Absolutely. I think when I wrote that, it's because at one point in my life, all I had was the tiniest flicker of hope. I was in jail. I was detoxing from drugs. I wanted to die. I felt like a life without alcohol and substance mind altering substances would be impossible. It would be impossible to have fun. It would be impossible to survive. It would be impossible to make it through the days. And then my father visited me and said, I remember who you were before all of this darkness, and I know that she's still in there, and I will stand by you while you fight to get your life back. I love you. And that gave me a little bit of hope. If this guy could see something in me that I couldn't see in myself, like, why couldn't I try? And so I think if all you have is like the tiniest inkling that it's possible, that's all you need. Because when you're completely hopeless, you're not going to fight. But if there's a little sliver of a chance that you can have an amazing life in recovery, then it makes it all worth it and worth fighting for. And you and I and so many other people are examples that, like, hey, that isn't how your story has to end. And a life after that darkness is possible, an amazing life. And if somebody like me who couldn't go 5 minutes without having something illegal in her system, something mind altering in her system, if I couldn't go 5 minutes and now I'm making it through deaths, divorce, birth, marriage, like I said, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it if I can.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seriously, I was bad. If you saw the first episode, then I was really bad. And,
she was bad.
Yeah. And life is hard, dude. And it's so hard to find things that sometimes you just want to sleep. You just want to not exist, not have to go through the charades. Like, I totally get it. Just today, somebody told me I had to call my insurance company to answer some questions. And I was like, I would rather jump out my window.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is so lame. But if you switch your perspective and you're like, holy crap, I'm insured.
Yeah.
I have insurance. This is a big deal. Then it kind of makes those impossible moments feel possible.
If I told you that 12 years ago, you were on the floor in a jail cell, sometimes we think things are impossible, and we just talked about that flicker of hope. But if, there was, and I'm sure there are other young women laying on a jail cell right now. So I'd like to leave them with some tangible things. Maybe,
Yep.
get up and go for a walk, or this is my favorite book, or
don't move your legs.
Can we offer them some takeaways today?
Yes, I love your suggestions also, but if I'm talking to somebody who is in the midst of, the throes of withdrawal, my whole thing is reaching out for help was the greatest gift I have ever given myself. Recognizing that my brain was messed up and I was incapable of fixing it on my own. So I had to take it to a professional. Like, that was the smartest choice I have ever made in my life. Because had I continued trying to fix it myself, I would have ended up right back where I was. And so going to a rehab facility, learning how to live a life without drugs and drinking, learning why I did the things that I did and what they stemmed for, was the greatest gift I've ever given myself. Ever since I've gotten clean, I've gotten all those things you mentioned, but I also have two beautiful children and a bonus daughter. And my kids are 8 and 9 now, and they're humans and they're laughing, and I hear them laughing, and I think back to being in that jail cell detoxing. And if I had had my way, I would have died there, but I would have missed out on all of this beauty. And there is so much beauty waiting for those of you who are in the struggle. All you have to do is reach out for help.
Well said. Tiffany Jenkins. Hey, where can we find the Tiff and Flip Show?
We are anywhere you listen to podcasts, or if you want to watch us get weird, not like that, but just if you want to watch it, it's on YouTube at the Tiffin Flip Show.
Check it out for sure. It's such a or Flip really has this way with you of helping you to like open up and not taking your shit sometimes
Yeah.
and just you guys are such a good pair. Definitely
You
check
really
out the
watch
Tiffin Flip
it?
Show. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that
I
makes me
sent
feel so good.
So you on YouTube, you launched, I think, like the first 3 or 4 episodes like in the same day. I
Mhm.
was refresh,
Oh,
waiting.
that's freaking
Love
awesome.
it.
That's so cool.
It's
Thank you
so
so
good.
much.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to
Yes.
recommend your podcast to all my peoples.
Oh, there we go. Tiffany, thank you so much. I
Oh,
appreciate it,
thank
my friend.
you. You're a great host. These were such great questions, and it
Oh,
was so nice to be back,
she's
doing stuff like this. This was cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully, you heard something inspiring and that resonates with you. If you're an aspiring podcaster or have your own message to share, head over to podcastnate.com and book a discovery call. I have helped countless aspiring podcasters to launch their show and share their message, and I'd be honored to help you do the same. Remember, everyone has a story. Yours could help save a life. Make sure you subscribe to the Sobriety Diaries so you never miss an upload. We're back with new episodes every Wednesday. Bye, everyone.